Hey guys, tonight we're taking a deep dive into a world that redefined what it meant to be tough. A society forged in the fires of discipline and duty. We're going to explore the brutal, unyielding training that shaped every young life in ancient Sparta. You might think your high school sports coach was demanding, or that basic training is tough, but trust me, what we're about to uncover makes a Marine Corps boot camp look like a summer retreat. We're stepping back in time to a city state where every citizen was a soldier, and the path to becoming one began almost at the moment of birth. So, before you get comfortable and drift off, prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of Spartan discipline. If you're genuinely enjoying what I do here, consider taking a moment to like the video and subscribe. And as you settle in for tonight's journey, feel free to drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine yourself, not as a kid with a comfy bed and a pile of toys, but as an infant in ancient Sparta, somewhere around the 6th century BCE. Your very first moments of life are not filled with soft blankets and loving cuddles, but with a harsh, unblinking assessment. This is welcome to Sparta birth and the betrayal of childhood. For a Spartan child, there was no gentle, universal welcome. From the instant you drew your first breath, your existence was judged through a very specific lens. Your potential as a future warrior, a defender of the Spartan state. This wasn't about personal happiness or individual dreams. It was about the collective strength of Sparta. It's like being born into a family that's also an elite military academy, and your first performance review happens before you're even a day old. Unlike other Greek city-states where the family unit was paramount, in Sparta, the state reigned supreme. The moment you were born, you were presented to a council of elders, the Gerousia, often at a place called the Lesh. They weren't there to admire your cute little fingers and toes. No. They were there to examine you for any physical deformities or weaknesses. If you were deemed strong, healthy, and capable of growing into a robust soldier or a strong mother of soldiers, you were allowed to live. If, however, you were judged to be sickly, frail, or imperfect, you were left to die. This brutal practice, often romanticized as being left on Mount Taygetus, was a chilling demonstration of Sparta's unwavering commitment to military excellence from the very outset. It makes you realize just how precious and conditional life was in this society. This seemingly cruel act wasn't born out of malice, but from a cold, hard practicality. Sparta was a unique society, built on a foundation of military might to control a vast population of enslaved people, the Helots, who vastly outnumbered their Spartan masters. Every Spartan citizen, male or female, had a role in maintaining this fragile balance of power, and weakness simply could not be tolerated. A sickly child would, in their view, become a burden on the state, consuming resources without contributing to its strength. It's a harsh calculus, but one that shaped every aspect of their society. A common historical truth is that Spartan infants were subjected to a state-sanctioned inspection at birth, and those deemed physically unfit were exposed, a practice believed to ensure the strength of the Spartan citizen body. This act, often associated with Mount Taygetus, highlights Sparta's extreme dedication to eugenics and military readiness. Historians still widely debate the precise frequency and exact methods of this exposure, and whether it was always a death sentence or if some infants were simply abandoned rather than directly killed. But its pervasive cultural influence is undisputed. A fascinating yet rarely discussed detail is the deliberate hardening of infants even if they passed the initial inspection. Spartan mothers and nurses were renowned for their rigorous methods, They would not swaddle infants tightly, allowing their limbs to move freely and strengthen. They would often bathe babies in wine, not water, believing it toughened their skin. They trained them not to fear the dark, to eat whatever was given to them without complaint, and to be alone without crying. Imagine being a newborn, and your caregivers are deliberately trying to make you as stoic and independent as possible from day one. It certainly sets a different tone for childhood than the lullabies and gentle rocking chairs you might imagine. This betrayal of childhood wasn't just about physical toughness, it was about mental and emotional conditioning. From their earliest moments, Spartan children were taught self control and resilience. They were accustomed to discomfort, to scarcity, and to obeying without question. The emphasis was always on the collective, the state, over the individual. There were no pampered darlings in Sparta. Every child was a future cog in the military machine, and their upbringing reflected this singular purpose. It's like a very early form of psychological warfare, shaping their minds to withstand hardship before they even understood what hardship meant. Even toys, if they existed at all, were likely utilitarian, encouraging physical activity and simple games rather than elaborate imaginative play. The focus was always on developing strength, agility, and a sense of duty. The tender affection and playful indulgence common in other societies were largely absent, replaced by a stern, practical upbringing designed to forge unbreakable warriors. You didn't get a teddy bear, you got a wooden sword. This initial phase, from birth until around age 7, was still spent with the family. But under the watchful eye of the state, the father, a citizen soldier himself, would reinforce the lessons of discipline and obedience. The mother, often a strong, independent woman who had undergone her own rigorous training, would instill stoicism and a love for Sparta. So, even within the family unit, the future military role of the child was constantly being impressed upon them. There was no escaping the pervasive ideology. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the brutal, yet undeniably purposeful, beginning of a Spartan youth's life. Your Spartan ancestor faced an immediate life or death assessment at birth, followed by a childhood designed to harden them against every comfort and instill unwavering loyalty to the state. It's a powerful reminder that while we cherish the innocence and freedom of childhood, for centuries, an entire society dedicated itself to forging warriors from the cradle, leaving us truly grateful for a world where every life is valued for its inherent worth, and childhood is a time for gentle growth and boundless imagination. Far from the stoic assessments of ancient Spartan elders, let's gently return to that stark, unyielding world of ancient Sparta, where the earliest moments of life were already a testament to the brutal discipline to come. If we've just seen how childhood was betrayed from birth, tonight we'll witness the true crucible of Spartan training. The Agoge begins, leaving home, entering the barracks. You might remember the excitement, or perhaps the dread, of your first day of school. But for your Spartan ancestor, turning 7 meant being torn from any semblance of family life and plunged into a harsh, unforgiving system designed to forge them into an unbreakable weapon for the state. Imagine yourself, a small, stoic 7-year-old boy in ancient Sparta. You've spent your early years under the strict yet familiar guidance of your family. But as the sun rises on your 7th birthday, everything changes. No more playing in the small courtyard. No more the comforting presence of your mother or the stern but known voice of your father. Instead, you are taken from your home, often with little ceremony, and delivered into the hands of the Paidonomos, the state official responsible for overseeing the entire Agoge system. This isn't just a new school, It's a complete severance from your past, a rebirth into a collective, military existence. It's like being sent off to the toughest, most isolated boarding school imaginable. But instead of learning algebra, you're learning how to endure pain and kill efficiently. This forced departure from home was a pivotal moment, designed to break any lingering familial attachments and instill absolute loyalty to the state. From this day forward, your identity would be inextricably linked to your syssitia, your mess group, and to Sparta itself. You would live in communal barracks with boys your own age, and older boys and young men who were further along in their training. Your days would be meticulously structured, your actions constantly scrutinized, and your individual desires utterly suppressed. This wasn't about nurturing personal growth, it was about molding an identical discipline component of the Spartan war machine. Imagine trying to explain to your 7-year-old self that you're about to live in a perpetual boot camp with no comfort, no privacy, and no end in sight for the next 13 years. Good luck with that. The barracks themselves were Spartan in the truest sense of the word. They were deliberately austere and uncomfortable. There were no soft beds, no personal belongings beyond the absolute bare necessities. You would sleep on a thin reed mat, or perhaps on a bed of rushes gathered from the Eurotas River, which you had to prepare yourself, stripping the rushes with your bare hands. This constant exposure to discomfort was a deliberate part of the training, designed to harden your body and mind against luxury and a dependence on ease. It's like going camping, but the camping never ends, and your sleeping pad is just whatever itchy weeds you can find. A common historical truth is that Spartan boys began their rigorous state-controlled military training, known as the Agoge, at the age of 7, leaving their families to live in communal barracks. This system was designed to cultivate absolute loyalty to the state, physical toughness, and military prowess, effectively eradicating individual identity in favor of collective discipline. Historians still widely debate the precise psychological impact of this early separation from family and how it contributed to the Spartan psyche and their renowned martial effectiveness. A fascinating yet rarely discussed detail is the role of older boys and young men as mentors and enforcers. The Agoge was not simply run by adult instructors. Older boys, known as Irenes, usually aged around 18-19, having completed their own Agoge, were given significant authority over younger groups. They would lead the training, oversee discipline, and often enforce punishments. This system created a strict hierarchy, where younger boys learned obedience and respect for their elders, and older boys learned leadership and the responsibility of maintaining order. Imagine being a young kid, and your drill sergeant is only a few years older than you, but has already been through years of the exact same brutal training. It certainly adds a layer of immediate, relatable intimidation. The daily routine in the barracks was relentless and monotonous, designed to break down individuality and build collective cohesion. Your days would be filled with physical exercise, drills, and martial arts training. There was very little time for leisure or personal pursuits. Every moment was structured, every action scrutinized. Even mealtimes were a part of the discipline, emphasizing plain, often meager, food and communal eating in the Syssitia. You weren't allowed to complain or even show discomfort. Your emotions, like your body, were to be rigorously controlled. This constant immersion in a communal environment also meant a severe lack of privacy. You ate, slept, trained, and lived in close quarters with your peers, constantly under the watchful eyes of your instructors and older boys. There was no personal space, no quiet corner to retreat to. This deliberate absence of privacy fostered a strong sense of group identity and interdependence, but it also meant that weakness or nonconformity would be immediately noticed and swiftly addressed. It's like living in a reality TV show that never ends, where every single moment of your life is observed and judged by your peers and superiors. The goal was not just to make you strong, but to make you part of a collective identity. You learn to value the group above yourself, to obey orders without question, and to function seamlessly as part of a larger unit. Personal desires, fears, and comforts were systematically stripped away, replaced by loyalty, discipline, and an unwavering dedication to the Spartan way of life. This was the foundation of their legendary military prowess, built not just on physical strength, but on an unparalleled unity of purpose. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the harsh reality of the Agoge. As Spartan boys left home and entered the barracks, your Spartan ancestor faced a complete severance from family life, plunged into an austere, communal existence designed to strip away individuality and forge an unbreakable collective identity. It's a powerful reminder that while we cherish personal freedom and the comforts of home for centuries, an entire society dedicated itself to molding its youth into disciplined, unyielding warriors through a system that prioritized the state above all else, leaving us truly grateful for the warmth of family, the privacy of our own space, and the freedom to pursue our own paths, far from the stark barracks of ancient Sparta. Let's gently return to that austere Spartan barracks, where every 7-year-old boy began his brutal journey into military life. If we've just witnessed the harsh severance from home, tonight we'll delve into the very core of their physical hardening discipline of the body: hunger, cold, and constant stripping. You might complain about a chilly morning or skipping a meal, but for your Spartan ancestor, these were not discomforts to be avoided, but deliberate tools for forging an unbreakable will and an unyielding physique. Imagine yourself, now a slightly older boy, perhaps 10 or 12, living perpetually within the Agoge. Your days are no longer just about drills, they are a constant, low level battle against basic human desires. You are intentionally kept on the edge of starvation, perpetually cold, and dressed in the bare minimum. This wasn't accidental. It was a meticulously designed system to toughen you, to make you resilient, and to teach you to endure hardship without complaint. It's like living in a perpetual extreme survival camp, but the wilderness is replaced by the relentless, intentional discomfort of your instructors. The most striking aspect was the deliberate deprivation of food. Spartans were notoriously underfed during their agoge. Meals were meager, consisting of simple, often unappetizing fare, like melas zomos, or black broth, a concoction of boiled pork, blood, and vinegar that was famously unpalatable even to other Greeks. The portions were deliberately small, designed to leave you constantly hungry. This wasn't just to save resources, it was a calculated method to teach you discipline, resourcefulness, and to endure hunger as a constant companion. It also subtly encouraged you to steal, but only if you weren't caught, a lesson we'll revisit later. Imagine going through your growth spurt, playing intensely all day, and constantly feeling the gnawing pangs of hunger in your stomach. It makes a forgotten lunch break feel like a 5-star feast. This constant hunger had a dual purpose. Firstly, it trained you to operate effectively even when deprived, an essential skill for a soldier on campaign. Secondly, it encouraged stealth and cunning. If you were truly hungry, you were permitted to steal food, but if caught, the punishment was severe, not for the theft itself, but for the incompetence of being discovered. This paradox taught you invaluable lessons in deception, agility, and quick thinking, skills just as vital on the battlefield as brute strength. It's like a very twisted scavenger hunt where the prize is a stale piece of bread, and failure means a public whipping. A common historical truth is that Spartan youth in the Agoge were intentionally underfed, a practice designed to foster discipline, resilience, and resourcefulness. This scarcity of food often led to boys attempting to steal, with punishment meted out not for the theft itself, but for the failure to avoid detection. Historians still widely debate the precise caloric intake of Spartan youth and the long term health consequences of such chronic deprivation, but its role in their psychological and physical conditioning is clear. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the singular garment they wore for most of the year, regardless of the weather. A Spartan youth was given only one thin cloak. This was it. No extra tunics, no warm trousers, no blankets beyond the rudimentary mat you slept on. This constant exposure to the elements, to the biting winds of winter and the scorching sun of summer, was a deliberate toughening process. It built resilience to cold and heat, and minimized the need for possessions, reinforcing the Spartan disdain for luxury and comfort. Imagine living in a climate with four distinct seasons, and your entire wardrobe consists of a single, thin jacket. You'd learn to appreciate any sliver of warmth. This constant exposure to cold was particularly brutal during the winter months. Sleeping on hard ground or a thin mat with only a single cloak meant perpetually shivering. Your body was forced to adapt, to generate its own warmth, and to ignore discomfort. This trained you not to complain, not to seek ease, and to focus on your duty even when your teeth were chattering uncontrollably. It instilled a profound physical and mental fortitude, making the hardship of a military campaign seem less daunting. It's like an endless cold shower, only it's your entire existence, and you're expected to smile about it. The constant stripping referred not only to the lack of clothing, but also to the stripping away of personal identity and any sense of pampering. They were regularly expected to exercise and perform drills naked or near naked, not for titillation, but for the sheer physical toughening and to emphasize their equality and lack of personal adornment. They were frequently bathed in cold water or simply expected to endure. Their hair was kept short until adulthood, when it was allowed to grow long as a sign of their status, and their bodies were routinely inspected. This forced vulnerability and exposure reinforced the idea that their bodies were tools of the state, not objects of personal vanity. The cumulative effect of this constant hunger, cold, and physical austerity was profound. It didn't just build strong muscles, it forged an incredibly resilient mind. It taught you to push past pain, to endure discomfort, and to focus on the task at hand, regardless of your physical state. It eliminated any concept of individual weakness or self pity. You learned to rely on your inner fortitude and the shared suffering of your comrades, creating an unbreakable bond forged in shared hardship. It made them, quite literally, iron men. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the brutal discipline of the body that defined a Spartan youth's training: the constant hunger, the biting cold, and the deliberate stripping away of comfort. Your Spartan ancestor was systematically deprived and exposed, not to punish, but to forge an unbreakable will and an unyielding physique, preparing them for a life of relentless military service. It's a powerful reminder that while we seek comfort and abundance for centuries, an entire society purposefully embraced hardship as the ultimate tool for strength, leaving us truly grateful for the warmth of our homes, the fullness of our pantries, and the freedom to choose comfort, far from the intentional deprivations of ancient Sparta. Let's gently return to that Spartan barracks, where constant hunger and a single cloak were your daily companions. If we've just witnessed the brutal discipline of the body through deprivation, Tonight we'll delve into the very heart of their existence, masters of pain, combat, competition, and controlled violence. You might practice a sport or learn self defense, but for your Spartan ancestor, every waking hour was dedicated to mastering the art of physical combat, not for glory in a game, but for survival on the battlefield. Imagine yourself, now a robust young man, perhaps 15 or 16 years old, deeply entrenched in the Agoge. Your body, hardened by years of hunger and cold, is now a lean, efficient machine. Your muscles ache from dawn till dusk, but you barely notice. Today, like every day, is about honing your ability to inflict and endure pain. This isn't just about learning moves, it's about conditioning your mind and body to confront violence head on, without hesitation, without fear. It's like being in a full contact martial arts academy that never has a graduation ceremony, where every sparring session could legitimately put you in the infirmary, if they even had one. The core of their training was unrelenting combat practice. From a young age, boys were made to fight each other, often with bare hands, sometimes with sticks or blunted weapons, mimicking the brutal reality of the phalanx. These weren't friendly sparring matches. They were intense, often bloody, encounters designed to teach aggression, resilience, and tactical thinking under duress. You learn to ignore pain, to push through exhaustion, and to view your opponent not as a peer, but as an obstacle to be overcome, quickly and efficiently. Imagine being told to fight your best friend, not playfully, but with genuine intent to dominate, knowing that showing weakness would bring shame. It certainly changes the dynamic of a playdate. This emphasis on combat extended beyond individual duels. They trained extensively in group tactics, particularly the phalanx formation. This was Sparta's signature military innovation, a tight, impenetrable wall of heavily armored hoplites, overlapping shields, and long spears. Hours were spent drilling, learning to move as a single, cohesive unit, maintaining formation under simulated attack, and pushing forward with unwavering discipline. You learn to trust the man next to you with your life, knowing that any break in the line could spell disaster for the entire formation. It's like being part of the most disciplined, high stakes marching band in history, only instead of instruments, you're wielding lethal weapons, and a wrong step means death. A common historical truth is that Spartan training was exceptionally focused on physical combat and military drills, particularly the mastery of the phalanx formation. This rigorous regimen included regular, often brutal, sparring, designed to instill aggression, resilience, and unwavering discipline. Historians still widely debate the precise balance between individual martial arts training and collective phalanx drills, and how much the focus on individual combat skills served practical battlefield needs versus simply fostering a warrior ethos. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the deliberate encouragement of competition, even to the point of brutality. The Agoge fostered an intense spirit of rivalry among peers. Boys were constantly pitted against each other, not just in formal combat, but in every aspect of their lives, from foot races and wrestling to endurance challenges, and even contests of who could withstand the most pain without flinching. This fierce competition, often overseen and even encouraged by the older Irenes, the mentors, ensured that only the strongest, most resilient, and most aggressive would excel. It weeded out the weak and reinforced the idea that only through dominance could one earn respect. Imagine being in school where every single activity, from eating to sleeping, was a cutthroat competition, and your only measure of success was being better than everyone else by any means necessary. It certainly puts a different spin on friendly rivalry. Their training wasn't just about inflicting pain, it was about mastering the endurance of pain. Spartan youth were famously taught not to cry out, not to show weakness, regardless of injury or discomfort. This mental fortitude was cultivated through various means, including brutal flogging rituals, such as the diamastigosis, a public whipping ceremony that took place at the altar of Artemis Orthia. Boys would be whipped, sometimes to the point of collapse or even death, without uttering a sound, a demonstration of their absolute stoicism and contempt for pain. It's a chilling testament to their will, but it shows how thoroughly they were conditioned to suppress natural human reactions. This controlled violence was everywhere. It wasn't just in formal combat. Arguments between boys could quickly escalate into fights, and these were often allowed, even encouraged, as a way to let them test their aggression and dominance. The lack of adult intervention in minor squabbles meant that boys learned to defend themselves and assert their will from a young age. This constant low-level violence, managed by the Paidonomos and Irenes, ensured that their aggressive instincts were always honed, always ready to be unleashed in battle against Sparta's enemies. It's like living in a society where every disagreement is settled through a quick, brutal wrestling match, and the strongest always wins. The ultimate goal of all this physical and mental conditioning was to create the perfect hoplite, a soldier who was utterly fearless, absolutely disciplined, and capable of operating as an unbreakable part of a larger unit. They were taught to kill efficiently, to endure relentlessly, and to never retreat. Their lives, their very identities, were intertwined with their capacity for controlled violence and their mastery of pain. This wasn't just a career path, it was their entire purpose for existence. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the intense, brutal world of combat, competition, and controlled violence that forged Spartan youth into masters of pain. Your Spartan ancestor endured relentless physical conditioning, fought constantly against peers, and was taught to suppress all signs of weakness, all to become an unbreakable part of Sparta's formidable military machine. It's a powerful reminder that while we seek peace and avoid conflict, for centuries, an entire society dedicated itself to transforming human beings into living weapons, leaving us truly grateful for a world where strength is measured not just by our capacity for violence, but by our ability to build, to create, and to live in harmonious peace. Let's gently return to that Spartan Agoge, where every youth was forged through unyielding combat and the mastery of pain. If we've just witnessed their overt physical and martial conditioning, tonight we'll delve into a more clandestine and unsettling aspect of their training: the art of subtlety, stealth, scarcity, and the crypteia. You might think of Spartans as straightforward warriors, but beneath that disciplined exterior lay a mastery of deception and a chilling willingness to engage in brutal, hidden acts necessary for the state's survival. Imagine yourself, now, a young man, perhaps around 18, nearing the completion of your initial Agoge training. You've mastered the phalanx, endured countless deprivations, and learned to kill with efficiency. But your training isn't just about direct confrontation. Today, you might find yourself practicing stealth, moving through the rugged Spartan countryside under the cloak of night, silent as a whisper, leaving no trace. This wasn't for infiltration on a distant battlefield. It was for the grim realities of maintaining control over the Helot population. It's like being trained as a ninja. But your mission isn't to rescue a princess, it's to enforce a very brutal, silent form of state control. The Agoge instilled a profound sense of resourcefulness, particularly in acquiring what was denied to you. Remember the constant hunger. This wasn't just to make you tough, it was to teach you to steal. If you could manage to procure food without being detected, you were praised for your cunning. If you were caught, you were punished severely, not for the act of theft, but for your lack of skill and stealth. This encouraged boys to develop agility, observation skills, and the ability to move undetected qualities essential for any warrior, but particularly for those operating behind enemy lines or engaged in covert operations. Imagine trying to sneak a snack from the pantry, but getting caught means a public lashing. You'd learn to be very, very good at being invisible. This emphasis on stealth and cunning culminated in a particularly chilling institution known as the crypteia. This was a secret, often brutal, aspect of Spartan training, primarily involving select young men who had shown exceptional promise. Periodically, these youths would be dispatched into the countryside, armed with daggers, and given orders to survive off the land by day, hiding from detection by night. Their true, terrifying mission would begin. They would hunt down and kill any helots they encountered who seemed too strong, too intelligent, or too independent. This was a deliberate act of controlled violence, a terroristic measure designed to prevent helot uprisings and to instill fear. A common historical truth is that Spartan youth were trained in stealth and resourcefulness, often encouraged to steal to survive, with punishment reserved for those who were caught, not for the act of theft itself. This covert training culminated in the crypteia, a secret state institution where select young Spartans were dispatched to kill helots, serving as a brutal method of population control and a final test of a Spartan's ruthlessness. Historians still widely debate the exact frequency, scale, and specific rituals of the crypteia and how widespread participation truly was among Spartan youth. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail is the psychological impact of the crypteia on the Spartan youth themselves. Participating in such a clandestine and brutal act, often involving the cold-blooded murder of unarmed individuals, would undoubtedly desensitize them to violence and reinforce the absolute necessity of maintaining state control, no matter the cost. It would further strip away any remaining notions of individual morality, replacing it with an unyielding obedience to the state's will. Imagine being told, as a rite of passage, that you must stalk and kill fellow human beings simply because they are deemed a threat to your society's order. It's a profound and disturbing form of indoctrination that highlights the extreme lengths Sparta went to maintain its unique social structure. The crypteia wasn't just about eliminating potential threats. It was also a final, brutal test of the Spartan youth's skills in survival and extreme self-reliance. Out in the wilderness, they had to forage for food, find shelter, and remain completely undetected, all while carrying out their grim duties. This honed their ability to operate independently, to blend into their surroundings, and to withstand isolation and hardship. It was the ultimate exam in the art of subtlety and survival, proving their absolute dedication to Sparta. It's like a very deadly scavenger hunt, where the only prize is your continued existence and the approval of a very demanding state. This hidden curriculum of stealth and targeted violence stands in stark contrast to the overt image of the brave, disciplined hoplite, fighting honorably on the battlefield. It reveals a more complex, darker side to Spartan military might, one built not just on strength, but on calculated fear and systematic oppression. The ability to move silently, to act decisively in the shadows, and to eliminate threats without public acknowledgement was as crucial to Sparta's survival as the famous phalanx. The constant underlying threat from the helots, whom the Spartans held in a state of perpetual fear and subjugation, meant that these brutal, hidden practices were considered essential. The Spartans lived in a constant state of low-level war with their enslaved population, and the Agoge, in all its facets, was designed to prepare them for this relentless struggle for dominance. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the chilling art of subtlety, stealth, scarcity, and the crypteia that formed a dark, yet vital, part of a Spartan youth's training. Your Spartan ancestor was taught to steal, to hide, and to engage in secret acts of violence, all to maintain the rigid social order of their state. It's a powerful reminder that while we might admire the overt strength and discipline of Sparta, their greatness was built upon a foundation of profound fear and systematic control, leaving us truly grateful for a world where justice is open, where human dignity is paramount, and where the shadows hold no such grim rites of passage. Let's gently return to that Spartan Agoge, where stealth and hidden violence formed a chilling, integral part of their education. If we've just witnessed their mastery of subtle, brutal survival, tonight we'll delve into the equally rigorous, yet often overlooked, conditioning of their mind's mind, forged in iron, obedience, oratory, and laconic wisdom. You might spend hours perfecting your public speaking or trying to craft the perfect social media post, but for your Spartan ancestor, every word, every silence, and every thought was shaped by a profound emphasis on discipline, brevity, and an unwavering loyalty to the state. Imagine yourself, now a young Spartan warrior on the cusp of adulthood. Your body is a weapon, honed and hardened, but your mind, that's where the true Spartan spirit resided. You weren't just taught to wield a spear, you were taught to wield your thoughts, your words, and your will with absolute precision and control. This was about more than just military tactics. It was about forging a collective mindset, an unshakable inner discipline that defined what it meant to be Spartan. It's like attending a very intense philosophy school, where every lesson is designed to make you a more effective, utterly devoted soldier. And showing too much emotion is an immediate failing grade. Obedience was the bedrock of this mental conditioning. From the moment you entered the Agoge at 7, you were taught to obey without question, without hesitation, and without complaint. The authority of your instructors, your erinis, and eventually your fellow citizens and state officials was absolute. You learned to suppress individual impulses and desires in favor of the collective will. This wasn't blind subservience. It was a deeply ingrained understanding that in battle and in life, the ability to follow orders instantly and perfectly was paramount to survival. Imagine being in a situation where questioning an order, even subtly, could be seen as a grave weakness, putting not just yourself, but your entire unit at risk. It certainly streamlines decision making, albeit at the cost of individual autonomy. This unwavering obedience extended to every aspect of life. You ate what you were given, slept where you were told, and trained until you dropped, all without a word of protest. This constant reinforcement created a formidable mental discipline, making the Spartan warrior reliable, predictable to their commanders, and terrifyingly effective in formation. They were not individuals on the battlefield. They were a single, unstoppable force, moved by a unified command. A common historical truth is that Spartan training heavily emphasized unquestioning obedience to authority and the state, cultivating a disciplined mindset essential for their military effectiveness. This mental conditioning was as rigorous as their physical training, aimed at eliminating individual desires in favor of collective loyalty. Historians still widely debate the long-term psychological impacts of such extreme obedience on Spartan society and individual well-being, and how much it contributed to Sparta's eventual decline. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the emphasis on laconic wisdom or laconic speech. The Spartans, from their region of Laconia, were famous for their incredibly brief, pithy, and often cutting remarks. They were taught to speak concisely, to avoid elaborate rhetoric, and to get straight to the point. This wasn't just a stylistic preference, it was a reflection of their practical, no nonsense approach to life and war. Wasting words was seen as a sign of weakness, of inefficiency. A Spartan response was meant to be impactful, direct, and leave no room for misinterpretation. Imagine trying to win an argument with someone who only responds in perfectly crafted, razor sharp one liners. You'd probably just give up. For example, when Philip II of Macedon supposedly threatened Sparta by saying, "If I invade Laconia, I will raise Sparta to the ground," the Spartans famously replied with a single word, "If." This was the epitome of laconic wisdom, a powerful, defiant message delivered with ultimate brevity. This training in concise, impactful communication was not just for political exchanges, but for battlefield commands and daily interactions, ensuring clarity and eliminating extraneous noise. It taught them to think precisely and speak with intent. This mental discipline also fostered a profound contempt for luxury and excess, not just physically, but intellectually. They were taught to disdain unnecessary knowledge, complex philosophical debates, or anything that might distract from their primary purpose serving the state. Their education was practical, focused on military strategy, physical fitness, and civic duty. They learned to value simplicity, even in thought, believing that clarity of purpose was paramount. It's like a strict minimalist lifestyle, but applied to your entire thought process. Even their songs and poetry were often simple, martial, and focused on themes of bravery, sacrifice, and loyalty to Sparta. There were no elaborate love poems or complex philosophical epics. Their culture, like their bodies and minds, was stripped down to the essentials, creating a unified, unshakable national character. The culmination of this mental forging was a warrior who was not only physically formidable, but also psychologically unyielding. They were trained to face fear, not with brute courage alone, but with an internal discipline that allowed them to maintain composure under the most extreme pressure. Their loyalty to Sparta was absolute, a deeply ingrained part of their very being. They lived and died for the state, their minds truly forged in iron. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the rigorous mental conditioning that shaped a Spartan youth, the absolute obedience, the mastery of laconic wisdom, and the constant forging of a mind dedicated entirely to the state. Your Spartan ancestor was taught to control every thought, every word, and every emotion, becoming a disciplined, unyielding component of Sparta's formidable military machine. It's a powerful reminder that while we cherish individuality and the freedom of expression, for centuries, an entire society meticulously crafted the minds of its citizens to serve a singular, unwavering purpose, leaving us truly grateful for the vastness of human thought, the beauty of complex language, and the freedom to cultivate our own beliefs and desires, far from the iron will of ancient Sparta. Let's gently return to that Spartan, Agoge, where every young man's mind was forged in the iron of obedience and laconic wisdom. If we've just explored the rigorous mental conditioning of Spartan boys, tonight we'll turn our attention to an equally fascinating, yet often misunderstood, aspect of their society: girls of Sparta, rigor, rights, and respected strength. You might think of ancient Greek women as confined to the home, but in Sparta, girls underwent a unique, demanding training regime that set them apart, ensuring their physical and mental fortitude was just as vital to the state as that of their male counterparts. Imagine yourself, not as a boy entering the barracks, but as a young girl in ancient Sparta. Your childhood is certainly not one of delicate embroidery lessons and quiet domestic tasks, as it might have been in Athens or other Greek city-states. Instead, from a young age, your days are filled with physical exercise, designed to make you strong, agile, and healthy. This wasn't just for personal well being, it was for the vital purpose of bearing strong, healthy children who would become future Spartan warriors. Your body, like that of the boys, was considered a valuable asset to the state, and its cultivation was a civic duty. It's like being in an all girls athletic boarding school, but the stakes aren't just winning a trophy, they're about ensuring the future of your entire society. Spartan girls engaged in a wide array of athletic pursuits that would have shocked other Greeks. They ran, wrestled, threw the javelin, and practiced discus. They competed in these events, often in public, and sometimes even naked or in very brief tunics, to emphasize their physical prowess and natural beauty without adornment. This public display, while scandalous to Athenians, was a source of pride for Spartans. It showed their dedication to physical excellence and their belief that strong women produced strong offspring. Imagine a high school track meet, but everyone is performing at an Olympic level, and the focus is entirely on physical perfection for the sake of the nation. It certainly changes the atmosphere from casual competition. This physical rigor was not just about strength, it was about endurance and mental toughness. Spartan girls were also subjected to disciplined routines and encouraged to cultivate the same stoicism and self control expected of the boys. They learned to endure discomfort without complaint, to be resilient in the face of hardship, and to prioritize the needs of the community over individual desires. While they didn't live in barracks like the boys, their upbringing at home was designed to reinforce these core Spartan values. A common historical truth is that Spartan girls and women received extensive physical education, including athletics like running, wrestling, and javelin throwing, which was highly unusual for women in ancient Greece. This training was primarily aimed at making them strong mothers capable of bearing healthy Spartan warriors, as well as instilling mental toughness and discipline. Historians still widely debate the exact curriculum and intensity of this training for girls compared to boys, and how much it contributed to their unique social and political freedoms. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the significant level of autonomy and influence Spartan women wielded compared to their counterparts in other Greek city-states, because the men were almost entirely dedicated to military service and lived in barracks for most of their lives. Spartan women effectively managed the household and the vast family estates. They oversaw the helot laborers, handled finances, and exercised considerable authority within the domestic sphere. They could inherit and own property, which was a remarkable right for women in the ancient world, and at times, Spartan women owned a substantial portion of the land. Imagine being able to control your own wealth and manage a large estate, while most other women in your world were essentially confined to their homes without such rights. It's like being a CEO in a world where most women are just secretaries. This level of responsibility and independence further reinforced their strong, no-nonsense character. They were not fragile, cloistered figures, but confident, capable managers who could not only physically defend themselves if necessary, but also assert their will in matters of property and family. Their laconic wit was as sharp as the men's, and they were famously unafraid to speak their minds, even to their husbands and sons. There's a famous anecdote where a foreign woman remarked to a Spartan woman, "You Spartan women are the only ones who rule your men." To which the Spartan woman retorted, "Yes, because we are the only ones who give birth to men." That's a mic drop moment. Ancient Greek style. The respect for mothers was paramount in Sparta, precisely because their role in producing future warriors was so highly valued. Spartan mothers famously told their sons going off to battle, "Come back with your shield, or on it," meaning return victorious or dead, but never a coward who discarded his shield in flight. This unwavering expectation of courage and sacrifice was instilled by the mothers themselves, demonstrating their critical role in upholding the Spartan ethos. They were the first and often most influential instructors of Spartan values. While Spartan girls did not undergo the Agoge in the same communal barracks as boys, their physical education and mental conditioning were overseen by the state and designed to complement the boys' training. Their strong bodies and fierce spirits ensured that the Spartan lineage remained robust and that their sons were raised with the same unyielding discipline that defined their fathers. Their lives were dedicated to the state, just like the men, but in a different, equally vital capacity. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the rigorous training and respected strength of the girls of Sparta. Your Spartan female ancestor underwent intense physical conditioning, enjoyed remarkable autonomy and property rights, and played a crucial role in maintaining the Spartan social and military structure. It's a powerful reminder that while we often imagine ancient women as subservient in Sparta, women forged their own unique path, leaving us truly grateful for the diverse ways strength and resilience have been cultivated throughout history, and for a world that increasingly values the contributions of all, regardless of gender, far from the unique, fierce women of ancient Sparta. Let's gently return to that uniquely disciplined world of ancient Sparta, where even the girls were forged into formidable individuals. If we've just explored the rigorous training and surprising autonomy of Spartan women, tonight we'll witness the culmination of the male Agoge becoming a citizen, adulthood, brotherhood, and the mess hall. You might remember the excitement of turning 18 or 21, but for your Spartan ancestor, reaching this milestone meant not just newfound responsibilities, but a lifelong commitment to the state, cemented by an unbreakable bond with his fellow warriors. Imagine yourself, a Spartan male, now 20 years old. You have endured 13 grueling years in the Agoge, a relentless gauntlet of hunger, cold, pain, and constant combat. You are no longer a boy. You are a lean, formidable warrior, hardened in body and mind. But simply completing the Agoge isn't enough to become a full citizen. You still need to pass a final, crucial test, gaining entry into a secession, a communal mess hall. This wasn't just a place to eat. It was the fundamental unit of Spartan society, the very essence of their brotherhood. It's like graduating from an elite military academy. But your real test is getting voted into the most exclusive, high-stakes fraternity, where membership is mandatory for citizenship. To gain full citizenship and become a true homoios, meaning equals, as all full Spartan citizens were called, a young man had to be unanimously accepted into a secession by its existing members. This was done through a secret ballot, often by dropping a piece of bread into a bowl, if even one member dropped a hollow piece, indicating rejection. The applicant was denied. This rigorous selection process ensured that only those who were truly accepted by their peers, those who had demonstrated unwavering loyalty, discipline, and a strong martial spirit, could join the ranks of the equals. A single black mark was enough to relegate you to a lower social status, permanently. Imagine passing every exam with flying colors, only to be rejected by a single anonymous vote from a future colleague. The pressure to conform and be accepted would be immense. If accepted, you were now a full citizen, a true Spartan warrior. Your life, however, did not become one of leisure. Instead, it shifted into a new phase of continuous military training and communal living. You would remain in the barracks, participating in drills, exercises, and military maneuvers, until you were 60 years old. Your entire adult life was dedicated to serving the state, maintaining its formidable military prowess, and safeguarding its unique social order. It's like having a job where your office is a military base, your colleagues are all soldiers, and your work-life balance is entirely skewed towards work. A common historical truth is that a Spartan male gained full citizenship and became a homoios upon completing the Agoge at age 20 and being accepted unanimously into a Sicilian communal mess hall. This acceptance was crucial for maintaining their status as equals and ensured a lifelong commitment to military service and communal living. Historians still widely debate the precise number of eligible young men who failed to gain acceptance into a Sicilian and the social implications of such exclusion for both the individual and Spartan society. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the deliberate simplicity of the Sicilian meals. Even as full citizens, Spartans were expected to eat the same basic, often bland food in their mess halls. The famous black broth was a staple. This wasn't because of poverty, it was a deliberate philosophical choice. Luxury and self-indulgence were strictly forbidden. The communal meal reinforced equality among the homoioi and prevented any display of wealth or personal taste that might undermine the collective ethos. Imagine having the means to eat whatever you wanted, but choosing to eat the same unappetizing, simple meal with your comrades every single day for decades. It's a powerful statement of priorities. The brotherhood forged in the mess hall was paramount. These small groups, typically 15 members, ate, conversed, and fought together. Their bonds were stronger than family ties, cemented by shared hardship, mutual reliance on the battlefield, and the daily intimacy of communal living. This intense camaraderie was a cornerstone of the phalanx's effectiveness. Each man knew he could absolutely trust the man next to him. They were more than comrades. They were family, bound by an unwritten oath of unwavering loyalty to each other and to Sparta. It's like being part of an incredibly close-knit, lifelong military unit where your survival literally depends on the trust you have in the person next to you. Even married men were expected to live in the barracks with their Sicilian until a relatively late age, only secretly visiting their wives at night. This further prioritized their loyalty to the state and their mess group above familial bonds. Their primary identity was as a Spartan warrior, a member of the Sicilian, rather than simply a husband or father. This practice, while unique, ensured that their focus remained squarely on their military duties and their communal life. The concept of adulthood in Sparta wasn't about individual freedom or establishing a separate household. It was about fulfilling your role as a fully functioning citizen soldier. Your land, your helots, your entire existence was geared towards supporting your life as a warrior. You contributed to the communal mess, participated in the assembly, and stood ready to defend Sparta at a moment's notice. This lifelong dedication was the ultimate expression of the Spartan way of life, a seamless integration of civilian and military existence. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the profound commitment involved in becoming a Spartan citizen, the lifelong brotherhood forged in the mess hall, and the unwavering dedication to the state. Your Spartan ancestor, having completed his brutal training, entered a new phase of communal living and continuous military service, bound by an unbreakable bond with his fellow warriors. It's a powerful reminder that while we often define adulthood by independence and individual choice, for centuries, an entire society defined it by unwavering collective duty, leaving us truly grateful for the freedom to choose our own path, to build our own lives, and to define our own relationship, far from the shared meals and lifelong military service of ancient Sparta. Let's gently return to that intensely communal world of ancient Sparta, where every citizen's life was a testament to unwavering discipline and unbreakable brotherhood. If we've just explored the culmination of their male training and the unique structure of their adulthood, tonight we'll delve into the silent, ever-present force that underpinned their entire society, a constant source of fear and the ultimate justification for their brutal way of life. The Helot shadow, control, fear, and constant vigilance. You might worry about a rude neighbor or a grumpy boss, but for your Spartan ancestor, their very existence was built upon the ruthless suppression of a vast, subjugated population, living under the constant, terrifying threat of rebellion. Imagine yourself as a full Spartan citizen, a homoios. You are at the pinnacle of Spartan society, trained to perfection, a member of the most formidable fighting force in the ancient world. Yet, every single day, your life is overshadowed by the presence of the Helots. These were not merely slaves in the traditional sense, they were a distinct, ethnically different group, likely the indigenous inhabitants of Messenia and Laconia, whom the Spartans had conquered and brutally subjugated. They vastly outnumbered their Spartan masters, perhaps by a ratio of 7 or even 10 to 1. This immense numerical disparity bred a profound, pervasive fear among the Spartans, a constant anxiety that was the hidden engine of their rigid social and military structure. It's like living on a powder keg, and every single day, you're just waiting for a spark, knowing that the smallest tremor could lead to utter annihilation. The Helots performed all the agricultural labor that sustained Sparta, allowing the male citizens to dedicate their lives entirely to military training and service. They cultivated the land, raised livestock, and performed all the necessary domestic tasks. Without the Helots, the Spartan way of life, with its unique emphasis on military readiness, would have been utterly impossible. They were the indispensable, yet utterly despised, foundation upon which the entire Spartan state rested. Imagine running your entire society on the backs of a population you utterly mistrusted and constantly feared. It creates a very tense, very unstable foundation. To maintain control over such a vast and potentially rebellious population, the Spartans employed incredibly harsh and systematic methods of oppression. Helots were essentially state-owned serfs, bound to the land and forbidden from leaving it without permission. They were subjected to regular beatings, humiliations, and random acts of violence, all designed to break their spirit and remind them of their subjugated status. Annually, Spartan magistrates would formally declare war on the Helots, a chilling ritual known as the cryptia, which effectively legalized the killing of any Helot deemed a threat, without repercussions. This wasn't just about punishment, it was about psychological terror, ensuring that the Helots lived in a perpetual state of fear and subservience. A common historical truth is that the Spartan way of life, particularly their dedication to military training, was entirely dependent on the forced labor of the Helots, a vast, subjugated population. The numerical superiority of the Helots instilled profound fear in the Spartans, leading to systematic and brutal methods of control, including routine humiliation, violence, and the infamous cryptia. Historians still widely debate the precise economic productivity of the Helots and the long-term effectiveness of these terror tactics in preventing large-scale uprisings. But their centrality to Spartan society is undeniable. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the specific ways Helots were humiliated. Beyond the physical violence, Spartans often forced Helots to act as examples of negative behavior. For instance, Helots might be compelled to get drunk and act foolishly in public, so that Spartan youth would witness the degradation caused by excessive drinking and learn to despise it. They were forced to wear distinctive leather caps or animal skins to mark them out, and singing Helot songs was strictly forbidden. These acts of public humiliation were designed to strip the Helots of their dignity and to reinforce their status as inferiors, thereby preventing any sense of collective identity or pride that could lead to rebellion. Imagine being forced to perform humiliating acts in front of your oppressors, knowing your own children might be watching. It's a chilling form of psychological warfare designed to crush the human spirit. The constant threat of Helot revolt meant that constant vigilance was not just a military strategy, it was a way of life for every Spartan. They lived with an unspoken but ever present awareness of the danger lurking within their own borders. This underlying tension fueled the relentless military training of the Agoge, as every Spartan male knew his primary purpose was to be ready to suppress an internal rebellion at any moment. The phalanx, their famed military formation, was as much a tool for domestic control as it was for foreign conquest. Major Helot revolts, though rare, were devastating. For Sparta, the largest and most famous, the Great Helot Revolt of the 460s BCE, lasted for years and severely tested Spartan resolve, forcing them to call on allies for assistance. Such events reinforced the Spartan conviction that their rigorous discipline and brutal control methods were absolutely necessary for their survival. It was a vicious cycle. The more they feared the Helots, the more brutal their suppression. The more brutal the suppression, the greater the Helots' desire for freedom. Even during periods of peace with other Greek states, the Spartans were always internally on a war footing. Their expeditions abroad were often limited in duration and scope, precisely because they could never afford to leave their homeland undefended against their internal enemy. This deep-seated fear and the methods of control it spawned profoundly shaped Spartan policy, limited their expansionist ambitions, and ultimately contributed to their unique, isolated societal structure. So, as you slowly drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, consider the pervasive, chilling shadow of the Helots that defined so much of Spartan life. Your Spartan ancestor lived in constant fear of rebellion from a vast, subjugated population, leading to systematic brutality and an unwavering need for vigilance that shaped every aspect of their society. It's a powerful reminder that while we might admire the martial prowess of Sparta, their greatness was built upon a foundation of profound oppression and fear, leaving us truly grateful for a world that strives for equality, justice, and dignity for all, far from the dark and dangerous shadows of ancient Sparta. Let's now gently ease into the final chapter of our quiet journey through the brutal, disciplined, and uniquely compelling world of ancient Sparta. We've explored every facet of their unforgiving training, from the chilling assessment at birth to the harsh realities of the Agoge, the mental conditioning, the unexpected strength of their women, and the ever-present shadow of the Helots. Tonight, we'll reflect on the enduring legacy of the lion, fear, fame, and the fading echoes of Sparta. You might admire their legendary courage, but what truly remains of this fierce society, and what lessons can we quietly draw from their stark, uncompromising way of life? Imagine yourself now, looking back from our modern, comfortable world at the distant, almost mythical city-state of Sparta. Its very name conjures images of unwavering discipline, legendary courage, and an unyielding warrior spirit. The phrase Spartan lifestyle still means living with austerity, facing hardship without complaint. This powerful image, reinforced by centuries of stories and art, is the most obvious legacy fame and an enduring reputation as the ultimate warriors of the ancient world. From the tales of Thermopylae to modern military academies, the Spartan ideal of absolute dedication and unparalleled toughness continues to inspire awe and respect. It's like how the legend of the Wild West still shapes our idea of rugged individualism, even if the historical reality was far more complex. This fame, however, is often built upon a simplified version of their history. The popular narrative often focuses on their battlefield prowess and stoicism. Glossing over the harsh realities, we've discussed the exposure of infants, the brutal treatment of the Helots, the deliberate deprivation, and the constant fear that fueled their entire system. The Spartan lion was indeed formidable, but its roar echoed with both courage and profound underlying anxiety. The enduring echo of Sparta also lies in its unique social experiment. They were one of the few Greek city states to entirely reject luxury, wealth, and elaborate arts in favor of a singular focus on military readiness and collective identity. While other cities built grand temples and philosophical schools, Sparta built its strength on the bodies and minds of its citizens, forging a society where every individual served the state's military needs. This radical social structure, so alien to our modern sensibilities, provides a fascinating historical case study in extreme societal control and single minded dedication. It's like a very long running social science experiment where the results are both undeniably effective in their initial goals and profoundly unsettling in their methods. A common historical truth is that Sparta's lasting legacy is primarily its reputation for unparalleled military prowess, discipline, and stoicism, profoundly influencing Western thought and military ideals. This image, however, often simplifies the complex realities of their society, including its reliance on helot labor and its eventual decline. Historians still widely debate the precise reasons for Sparta's decline and how much its rigid social structure, economic stagnation, or demographic challenges contributed to its eventual fall from power. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail is the paradox of Spartan conservatism and eventual stagnation. While their rigid system produced formidable warriors for centuries, it also made Sparta incredibly resistant to change and innovation. They largely eschewed trade, rejected foreign influences, and maintained an unchanging social structure, even as the rest of the Greek world evolved around them. This deliberate isolation and conservatism, while initially a source of strength, ultimately led to their decline. As other city-states embraced new military technologies, economic diversification, and philosophical advancements, Sparta remained locked in its ancient ways, eventually becoming a less dominant power. Imagine a highly successful company that refuses to adapt to new technology or market trends, believing its old methods are always superior. Eventually, it gets left behind. The fading echoes of Sparta are also a quiet reminder of the fragility of even the most powerful states. Their reliance on the helot system was a constant vulnerability, leading to internal strife and limiting their strategic options. Their declining citizen population, due to various factors including battlefield losses and the inability of poor citizens to contribute to the secession, gradually eroded their military strength. The very rigidity that made them strong eventually became their undoing, a testament to the fact that even the most meticulously forged systems can crack under the relentless pressure of time and change. So, as the turbulent waters of ancient Sparta calm and the distant echoes of their fierce lives fade into the quiet hum of your room, let your thoughts settle. Allow the intricate details of their desperate existence, their brutal training, and their enduring yet complex legacy to drift softly from your mind. There's no rush, nowhere to be but here, in this peaceful moment. The Spartans, with all their contradictions, their legendary courage born of deep fear, their freedom built on the backs of the enslaved, their strength leading to eventual stagnation remind us of a raw, untamed past. Their story is a profound tapestry of human discipline and desperation, a distant echo of a time when society pushed the boundaries of human endurance and where the line between survival and brutality was often blurred. Just relax and let sleep softly claim you, knowing that the turbulent waters of the past have calmed, leaving you in the comforting quiet of the present, where the only adventure you need now is the one waiting for you in your dreams.